The Echo Chamber, brought to you by The Holmes Report and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers. Sponsored by the Bullet Group, putting you in tomorrow's conversations today.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Echo Chamber. I'm Maya Pawinska-Sims, the Holmes Report's editor for EMEA, and I'm in London today with Mitch Kaye and Dan Glover, the founders of creative consumer agency The Academy. So welcome, chaps, to the podcast. So I gather you two have never appeared in an interview or podcast together, despite being firm friends and business partners. Why is that? Why have we never seen you together in the same room? Dan?
I think Mitch has always kind of been the face of the businesses. And I've kind of always just concentrated on the output, really. Mitch very much input, I'm output. And promotion fits within input.
Would you agree, Mitch?
Yeah, I've never managed to convince him to come along to one of these. So
okay, well, I'm honoured.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm honoured and intrigued. So this is all good. So Dan, given that you have probably a slightly less high profile in the PR industry than Mitch here, can you tell us a bit about your background, how you got here?
So when I left university, I wanted to go into journalism. I went to a conference about how to get jobs in the media. Steve Martin, who's the guy at M&C Saatchi, stood up and explained what PR was. I kind of thought that's really interesting. You know, I didn't realise there was an industry of people that kind of came up with ideas that journalists would report on. Got my first job at Cow PR. After various work experiences, absolutely loved that agency, which is a creative consumer shop in London. Then kind of left Cow to help set up Cow South Africa, which was all about direct work for an immediate impact in South Africa. Came back, worked at Cow for a bit as a creative, so very much behind the scenes, not necessarily client facing. Read about Mitch setting up Mischief. Thought that was really interesting. Wanted to do a particular type of work when I came back from South Africa. Met up with Mitch, said this is kind of work I want to be doing. It's very much aligned with the type of work that he wanted to be doing. Joined and kind of never looked back, have we?
No. It's a long time ago, but it's I remember it very well.
Okay, and so Mitch, let's just recap. How did you get here?
I also wanted to be a journalist. To begin with, and I kind of worked as
It is the best profession.
I think so. Worked as a freelance journalist for a while. I wanted to be a football journalist, which kind of led me to Sky Sports as my first job. And Sky Sports was a kind of part journalism, part publicity job. Spent a couple of years there, and then decided that I wanted to go somewhere smaller where I could learn more and do more quicker. So I met Rachel Bell, who's the founder of Shine. And I think I was Shine's 7th hire in 1999. She kind of took a chance on me and worked for Shine for a couple of years, then worked for an agency called McLaren, where I was doing kind of more corporate business stuff. Went to a company called Geronimo when I was doing government work on the COI roster, which is really interesting. I did a politics degree at university, so nice to use that. Back to Shine as a director for a couple of years. And then Rachel backed me to set Mischief up in January 2006. That's where I met Dan. We built Mischief together, sold Mischief to Engine.
Your career started taking off.
I met Dan, and it all happened from there. Clearly, built Mischief with Dan, sold Mischief to Engine in the summer of 2011, where we both spent 2 years in the group there. Left to set the Academy up, which incredibly is almost 5 years ago.
Oh my goodness. And you merged with Shine 2016,
yeah,
and you retired that brand end of 2017,
yes,
wasn't it? But Rachel is still a shareholder in the company?
Yeah, Rachel's a shareholder in the Academy now, and you know, gave me my first agency job a long time ago. I've known her for nearly 20 years.
She's a legend.
She is a legend. She's one of the smartest people I've ever met. I definitely wouldn't be running the Academy with Dan now. I wouldn't have run Mischief, set Mischief up if it wasn't for her. She is an amazing person to have at the end of the phone. Her judgment, her wisdom, her entrepreneurial spirit. she's also just someone I love spending time with. She's great company and someone we're really lucky to have with us.
And you've still got some good sound people from Shine working at the agency. You didn't just chuck them all out.
No, not far from it. I mean, her judgment on people is exceptional. She hires brilliant people. So when we took over Shine in 2016, some of the people we inherited were absolutely incredible, and so many of them are still here with us now. And some of our most talented people today came from Shine originally, and we're really lucky to have them.
So how do you two work together? What's your working relationship like? You strike me as being quite different personalities.
I think we're definitely different personalities, but we kind of see the world in the same way, right? So, we've worked together for so long now that we both know how each other think. So if an opportunity comes into the agency, then we can kind of make a really quick judgment, whoever it is, whether it's right for us or not. I think why it works is, Mitch understands the value of creativity. And we've always been a creative agency, whether it be in Mischief or the Academy. And hopefully, I understand that it's not just about kind of creative ideas for the sake of creative ideas. We are a business, so there's commercial creativity behind it. So it works. Mitch's role is more building the business, and my role is to make sure that we're doing the best work we can do.
Okay. Mitch, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have asked me over the years about our relationship, and probably in the guise of them thinking that maybe they want to find a business partner or maybe set an agency up with a partner. And I think it's very difficult to find a business partner. If you set your stall out to find one, I don't know where you would go or how you would do that. And we met by chance, really. We weren't business partners to begin with, and I think we very quickly became business partners. And we did that not because of levels or structure, but because we just, as Dan said, we saw the world in the same way. We found the same things funny. We had the same view of people. We kind of liked the same people. We weren't so keen on the same people. We work at the same pace. We're both quite obsessive about detail and about speed and about being one step ahead if we can. And I don't think you can't go out looking for those things. If you're lucky, you find those things by chance. So very quickly in our working relationship, we were behaving like partners because it just naturally happened. And I don't know where you go to find that, but when you do, it can go a long way. So
I don't think we've ever sat down and kind of put like a red line, as in I do this, you do that. I suppose we just kind of leave each other to get on with what we're good at.
So what is that? What are Mitch's strengths and weaknesses?
I think Mitch is fantastic with people. He's in another world, he'll be a fantastic football manager or owner of a football club.
That's like the greatest compliment you could give him as well.
Yeah, I know.
He had me at football manager.
I slightly regret saying that. But, so he's fantastic at managing people, spotting, what is that, the nub of a problem quickly, and then coming up with a solution for it. And I think he's really good at kind of giving people space to do what they do, which is not easy to do, because I think we're both quite obsessive and, maybe we tend to micromanage a little bit, but as we scale, the challenge will be how not to do that, but I think we know that. And he kind of leaves me to get on with the creative stuff, but we'll always back the creative ideas and help, present them to clients and convince clients to buy them.
What's his weaknesses then? What's most annoying about working with Mitch?
What is annoying?
Where do you want to start?
Just focus on the top 5.
Top 5. I think maybe sometimes quite impulsive.
Okay.
It might be
That's
a good idea.
Terrifying.
Might be a good idea to kind of, think for at least 5 minutes before acting. But, I think those things also are a virtue.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know. I mean, we get on really well. We're obviously really close friends as well. And we're not shy about having an argument with each other.
We were close friends until...
Yeah.
It's like I'm sorry, it's now all over.
We disagree on a lot, but I think what we're really good at is kind of disagreeing, but then very quickly coming to a compromise, and then that's what we will implement.
That's very grown up. That sounds like a good marriage.
We're definitely not married. But,
Okay, that's good to know. Mitch, what are Dan's strengths and weaknesses?
I guess you want to start on the strengths.
Let's start with the strengths.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I've said it lots of times before in different interviews and different places, but he is the most talented person I've ever met. I mean, I think he's a genius. I think he is the smartest guy I know I've worked with. I think he's the cleverest person in the industry. And I just think he is completely unique. And I think I realised that pretty early on. I mean, the truth is, if you go back to 2006 when we met, I couldn't afford to hire anybody when we met. It's the absolute truth. We were a really small business. I think there were 3 of us when I met Dan. And we were a couple of months old. We were doing fine, but we were very, very, very early on in that startup kind of journey. I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And then I met this guy, and he showed me the work that he'd been doing. And I couldn't believe it was his work. I honestly thought he had stolen it from an ad agency and was passing it off as his own. And even that was impressive because it was so compelling. But clearly it was his work. And I remember when we persuaded him to join Mischief, I paid him from my salary because I had this absolute belief that if I didn't take this opportunity to work with this guy, I would regret it forevermore. And really from that day onwards, I mean, it's, I'm going to embarrass him now slightly, but it's a privilege to watch him think every day. And I would say everybody in the business would say the same thing. It's a privilege to be around somebody who thinks the way he thinks because it's completely unique. Doesn't always mean it's easy, which leads me perfectly onto his weaknesses, but his strengths way outweigh his weaknesses, and he's a genius. He doesn't really have weaknesses, but there are things that you have to understand about Dan to be able to work with him.
Okay.
And that is that with every genius, there comes an intensity and a relentlessness, which sometimes is not always easy to be around. Because he works at an incredible pace. He is a perfectionist. His pursuit of perfection is why we've achieved anything that we've achieved. But alongside it and around it is not always easy for people to live with. But I always say that, because I do most of the hiring, I mean, Dan will always have an input in that, but I would always lead that process. Remember, I do input, he does output.
Yeah.
People, when they join, they always want to impress me to begin with. Very, very quickly, that moves to people just wanting to impress Dan. And I think the people in our business now, it's not that they wouldn't want to impress me, but really they want to impress Dan. And I think that's the way it should be, because we're a creative business. He's the creative director and, the lead creative. So I love the fact that they want to impress him, because it means that the work that we do for our clients will reflect that.
High praise indeed, Dan, there.
Awkward,
Blushing just slightly on the banquette here. Now, let's talk. Dan, I'll come to you on this. You've just recently restructured along the lines of 4 columns at the moment, and I think this is a completely different structure than I've seen to anybody else in the PR industry. Can you tell me a bit about where this idea came from? What's the kind of the rationale for it, and what's it going to enable you to do creatively that you couldn't do before?
Yeah, well, I don't think we've restructured. We've just hit a size that enables our structure to kick in.
Okay.
Because there was nothing wrong with what we were doing before, and it was always part of the plan to basically build the academy in a column structure. It's just that the income needed to get to a point where, you could hire people against it, or you could split it out. The point of the column structure is that, in our experience, clients don't want to hear from somebody at a pitch and then never hear from them again.
No, it's a common issue for clients.
And certainly from a creative point of view, I think the best creative directors are those that can sit with a client, ask the right questions, and actually talk to a client and be a genuine partner, rather than those that kind of sit back in the office in a corner and never go to a meeting. So we've deliberately kind of tried to keep the agency small. And as we get bigger, I think splitting it into columns so it's kept small means that senior creatives and teams are able just to focus 100% on their clients and a small set of clients to add genuine value to the work that we're doing, rather than kind of being stretched so thin, which is a typical kind of pyramid structure. It also means creatively that the people that sit at the top of those columns can kind of have their own autonomy, and they can form a style of their work, which is, from a creative point of view, like quite a big pool. And we want to attract the best creative minds to come into the building and do their type of work and their best type of work. And we think the column structure enables them to do that. So rather than everybody working into me, for example, don't really want that to happen. I want everybody to kind of work into themselves and do the best creative work they can do. That way I'll continue to develop as a creative because I'll see how other people's brains work. And the business will flourish because we'll just open up more and more columns, whether it be internationally or in other disciplines, just headed up by very smart people. And grow our own people to head those columns up as well.
And you've got a business lead and a creative lead at the top of each column. So this is not about the creative function within the agency being bolted on or even at the centre and available to everybody. It's like you're kind of creating mini agencies within the agency. Isn't it?
Well, I think if if we look back at the best that we've achieved since we've met, however many years ago, it's the coming together of two brains. It's to Dan's point earlier, it's a creative brain that understands business, and it's a business brain that understands creativity. So it's almost the essence of what we've achieved is those two coming together equally. And I think we're trying to recreate that partnership at the top of every column, because lots of companies talk about being creative, a creative agency. It's very easy to label yourself as a creative business. But actually with our business now, 50% of the leadership of our business will always be creative because there are two leaders at the top of every column and one is always a creative lead. So we put creativity absolutely at the heart of our management and our structure rather than it being something in the corner or a bolt-on or an afterthought. And I think that's a really important thing to do. So,
Dan, just come back to you. Where did this idea come from, the column structure? Because, like I said, it's not something that it's not a standard agency structure within PR.
I think our experience of within Engine and with Mischief was that we kind of grew the business to a certain size and it was quite difficult to grow it beyond that because you've got a certain number of clients and you can't necessarily give them the value that they all deserve. What we're experiencing is that the more time that we spend with clients, the bigger and better the ideas become. So instead of kind of chasing a load of new business, we're better off kind of doing that. And organic growth has been our biggest driver. Obviously, you need new clients and stuff like that, but organic growth has been the biggest driver. But the specific model, we've kind of unashamedly, I think, lifted from a design company called Pentagram, which is the largest design business in the world. And originally it was like a lot of individual design practices coming together under one roof with all the superstar designers kind of like learning from each other, but the collective being bigger than their individual studios. We like that model because to attract great creative brains, I think they want to be able to have like an element of their business that they're growing themselves. Because, whatever anybody says, it's like, there are people behind creative ideas, so those people need to be nurtured and need to be given the autonomy to just get on and do their best work, make their mistakes. So really, Pentagram, which still has the partnership model, we're looking for creative partners to come and join what we're doing to do their best work within the building. So the Academy really is building and a shared ethos. What happens in the Academy is very much down to the people that are in it. And we think that's the way to scale it. Rather than try to take on a load more clients and get incredibly stretched, we need to grow it in a way that is a column structure. I don't think there's really any other way to do it.
I think there's one more benefit too, which is if you are an account manager or an account director in a pyramid structure, which most of the agencies, independent agencies have, you get to a certain point where you hit a ceiling. So that might be associate director level. You hit a ceiling because you can't join a management team, because you can't have an indefinite size of management team. That there's a limit to that. So you typically hit a ceiling, and then you typically leave that business that you've spent so many years growing in because there's nowhere else to go. Here, if it's your ambition to run your own business one day, you will be backed here to set up your own business within the academy. You open another column.
Okay.
And there's no limit to how many columns we open. I mean, we wouldn't want to open too many at once because they've got to be thought through and they've got to be set up properly to succeed. But here you can give your best people who have an entrepreneurial ambition the opportunity, the space, the structure to go and launch their own with autonomy, but with backing and support and the whole infrastructure around them, which will help them succeed. So it's definitely a model built with creativity in mind, but also entrepreneurial spirit too.
So what defines a column then? Is it the number of clients or the size of that business, or are they themed? Tell me a bit more about that.
So at the moment we've got 2 consumer PR columns. We've got a film content column and we've got a live events column. But the growth of the academy is about helping those columns to grow, but also opening new columns too. And a new column in the future could be another consumer PR column. Yeah. It could be corporate PR. It could be a different type of discipline completely. It could be any of those things in different markets outside of London. So it could be another country. It could be another part of the UK. But the act of opening columns are literally about backing people to open something of value to clients, where great work can happen, where people can grow and develop and learn, where clients will be happy with the output, and where a unit contributes towards the overall business. So does it make the academy better? Does it enhance the academy's creative reputation? Are clients happy, and is it well led with the people in it? And if those criteria are in place, there's no limit to how many columns that we could open.
So when we sit here in a year's time, what will the academy look like? What do you want to achieve in the next kind of 12 months and going forward to that?
I think we like to scale quite aggressively. I mean, we are kind of 5 years in, but the merger of Shine in a way is, it was a great thing to do, but I think set us back slightly in terms of, well, it didn't set us back in terms of growth, but it set us back in terms of what we wanted, the academy to feel like. So it very much still feels like we're a startup, which, I'd say we are. I don't know when startup officially ends, probably never, but,
I don't know, that's a very good question.
Yeah, so I think we'd want to add more columns. And, from a personal point of view, I kind of want to look at, I think the set of people that we've got in the agency now, the academics are absolutely fantastic. Like, they're certainly our type of people. They're very talented. I'd love to see them develop as quickly as possible to kind of fulfil their potential. And I'd like to see that the client roster that we've got now just become that much bigger. So obviously we need to add new business, but I was in a meeting this morning where with one of our clients, and this is exactly how the column structure is kind of paying off. Sitting in a meeting this morning, one of the ideas that we have are activating against has got so much buy-in from the internal business of this big organisation. It's become huge, like, almost just being in a meeting. And it's like, right, we don't need to go and do any more new business because actually this is now become really big. I think with all of our clients, there are doors to push on. That means that if you have the time to kind of sit down, speak to them, present stuff in the right way, there's the opportunity to do big work with all of our clients.
Well, especially as there seems to be much more of a move from retainers to projects as well. So, you could spend your entire time pitching effectively, couldn't you, for sizable but nevertheless project work.
I mean, I think the academy is, the academy is a funny name in a way because, it forces us to teach people, forces us to do good work as an academy should do, but then teach people. And I think what I'd like to do for the next 12 months is really teach our people and fulfill against that promise to them, because we see those people leading columns of the future. And, if they want to, not everybody wants to be a leader. But we want, that's where we kind of see the value. So 12 months in would definitely be a lot of growth, but it would be growth because the work's got bigger and because our people have got more confident, and have led that work.
And I think a further proof point would be client happiness, because we didn't make a big deal of the changes we've made to our clients because it's very much business as usual, but the move is with clients in mind. So about Dan's point about staying close to senior clients. So I'd want them to believe that was true in the next 12 months. I think, well, recently I heard from 2 different people who have expressed an interest in coming in and leading a column, which means that's almost the ambition that the best brains come together under one roof. And I think ultimately when somebody in our current team ends up leaving the column they're in to set their own one up, we will then, that's another kind of proof point in the future that the model's alive, because it means that we are giving people an opportunity where they might otherwise have left the business to stay in and to grow their own. So that would be something I think we would love to see in the future. But I agree, I think it's about looking at this group of people we've got. I mean, they are an absolutely fantastic group of people. We're very lucky to work with them. And it's about saying, how do we get the best out of this group of people? How do we teach them? How do we develop them? But also, how do we look after them as well? Because, how do we look after them in the building they're in? How do we look after them in the industry they've chosen? How do we look after them in the city they work in the world we're in today, the year we're in? There's a lot of stuff going on outside of work. How do we get the best out of them? And I think that will be as important a focus for us as any other structure as well, because they are our biggest asset and they are our business, so we have to look after them.
So this isn't, you've clearly got a very a crystal clear vision for where you want, what the academy is, what it represents and where you want it to go. This is your second time around together, effectively. How does your approach to the academy differ from Mischief when you were kind of building that business?
I think creatively, Mischief, we just wanted to do like high impactful work that probably, won lots of awards, which it did. And it was scrappy, and I think we had a point to prove against other agencies and against other disciplines, stuff like that. Now I think we've kind of proved that we can do that type of work. So the academy is a different type of work. And I think the academy is kind of, as Mitch said, the strategic part and the creative part. So the creative agency thing is, I like that because obviously, creativity is at the heart of the business, but creativity really for us is like problem solving. So I think we could do a corporate job as well as we can do a consumer job,
right.
Because all of the opportunity with our clients and in the market, I think, is helping brands and companies and organisations define who they are, and then kind of almost like writing the best briefs to demonstrate who they are. And I think before, Mischief was a lot of kind of like marketing PR, where it was do something to get a short-term return, and we still do that type of work because clients want that. But we're very much more about kind of long-term comms ideas now and platforms that can transform business because a business is its brand. So I think we're quite a difficult agency to hire because people kind of go, well, we just want a load of stunts. And it's like, well, we don't really do that. Like, we do stunts, but once we've sorted out what your bigger comms narrative is, or people will go, we want the bigger comms narrative. And it's like, great, but we're really ambitious and we want to do work as well. We don't just, give you a comms narrative, then not do anything for 12 months. So I think we're quite a difficult agency to hire and pigeonhole. And I think some of our competitors, well, actually, I don't think there are many agencies really doing what we're doing, which I think is exciting, but equally, the best way of kind of demonstrating what we do is through our current client sets who have all bought into that, all like that and all want more of it. The challenge will be finding people that want to do that type of work. So as much as the academy model, champions creative leaders, it's actually very difficult to find those creative leaders because you suddenly go around looking at lots of creative people and you find that lots of them actually just want to sit in the corner and don't necessarily want to be accountable. We're not that type of agency.
Yeah.
We are only as good as the work that we do for our clients. And, to add to the where do we want to be in a year's time as well, we just want to see all of our clients in growth. They're all in growth now and they're doing fantastically. We want to be a big part of why they're succeeding. And I think because we're independent again and in control of our own targets, it is just all about the work that we're doing for clients. I couldn't really care if we don't win another award kind of thing, as long as our clients recognise the value that we give to them. And that comes from the power of comms.
But if you're listening and you're on a judging panel, we'd obviously love to win an award. Just to be very,
that goes
very
without
clear.
saying. Mitch, you hired hired Frankie Corey to replace you at Mischief as you were leaving for Pastures New. Recently announced that she's going to be moving on herself there. What do you make of that news?
Well, I was surprised. I think everyone was. She's a really good friend, and I remember when I hired her, which was the last thing I did. It was a 6-month process, and it was really difficult to do because I was so close to the job and the agency that, I mean, she was definitely the number one choice. I just never thought I would persuade her to take the job. And I remember joking with her at the time that it's replacing a founder of a business is something I know I would never want to do because I think it's really difficult to do. Well, I think she's made it look easy. I think she's done the most incredible job. I never doubted it for a minute, but she's, whatever the expectation was, she's surpassed it. She's done the most amazing job. I've lost count of the number of award ceremonies I've sat there hearing Mischief win award after award after award and seeing her walk up on stage and collect the trophy. I think she's built a brilliant team. I think she has maintained the best of the brand from a cultural point of view, but taken it in her own direction too, which you have to do when you replace a founder. I think it's a massive loss for the agency, and I wouldn't want to be the person replacing her, to be completely honest. But look, agencies are agencies. People move on. She proved that me leaving and Dan leaving wasn't a problem because she built her own team very quickly. I'm sure somebody else will come in and do that. There's some very talented people in that agency still. But I was obviously very surprised, and I'm sure whatever she does next, she'll be a huge success.
No, everyone will be watching that quite closely,
Definitely.
I think. We're kind of getting to the end of our time. I just wanted to ask Mitch one more question. I know you're a massive football fan and a supporter of Bournemouth FC. How are they doing at the moment?
Well, they're in the Premier League.
Okay, that's
So,
good.
I mean, that's pretty good.
What have you learned? I mean, I know you observe football clubs closely in terms of management style. Is there anything you've learnt from how football clubs are managed that you think is transferable over to the PR agency business?
Yeah, loads. I mean, it's something that Dan and I talk about all the time. I mean, Dan has read books on Barcelona.
Have you?
So Dan is slightly obsessed by Barcelona.
Okay.
I'm more obsessed
Both
by
football
Bournemouth.
obsessive.
Dan's more Barcelona, I'm more Bournemouth, which probably tells you where we're both at. But I think, well, on a simple level, I think it's interesting to look at other worlds and to draw learnings from other worlds and parallels. And I think there's huge other worlds where you can do that. So the manager of Bournemouth, who Dan will tell you I'm obsessed by, is a man called Eddie Howe. And Eddie Howe has done an incredible job at Bournemouth. And what the fundamental behind it is that he gets the best out of the players that he manages.
Right.
And there's no secret to that. There's no shortcut to that. That's about being a brilliant manager of people, understanding what makes people tick, removing pressure, having a clear vision, a clear identity, training and preparing really hard, being obsessive about detail, all those things that I think we can lean on and borrow and steal into our own business. But Dan and I talk in terms of football and football clubs the whole time because clubs have the best clubs, the best teams have a clear identity, a style of play. They will recruit players into that identity. They'll know what they're trying to achieve. They operate in a league and a cup system where there's a clear sense of success. It's about winning. They win matches, they win trophies. And I think there's huge parallels between what we're trying to build at the academy and the best football clubs. So I think it's a big inspiration for us both. But generally, I think it's always good to step outside of your own industry and look at what other people are doing that's successful in other areas.
Well, you heard it here first. The Academy is the PR agency most like a football club in the UK. Chaps, hopefully Barcelona. Although Bournemouth seems to be doing okay.
Not mid-table.
I don't mind either way. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Dan, from the Academy, for joining us in the Echo Chamber today.
Thanks for having us.
You've been listening to the Echo Chamber. Brought to you by the Holmes Report and produced by Marketeers. Sponsored by the Bullet Group, putting you in tomorrow's conversations today.